in history, in World War II, immediately we think of Hitler. Well, in this story, in the historical account of the Bible, we have a creation of God who's wonderful and beautiful, is prideful, falls. The bad guy is Satan, Lucifer. And his desire is to destroy, to steal, to murder, to lie. So God, he placed Adam and Eve in this garden, and he says, you can eat of all the trees except this one tree of the knowledge of good and evil. That's a little bit interesting to me. That you pick one tree out of the whole entire creation and say, everything else except this one. Why didn't he just say, well, this section over here, these square miles, or maybe these thousands of trees over here are off limits? No, God says one tree, because he wants to make it very, very difficult to break relationship with him. But yet he gives free will. So Satan shows up, the bad guy, and he tempts the woman to eat the tree. He deceives her. Now the woman should have been led by her husband Adam, who was given the direct command, who willfully chose, knowing everything that he was about to do, and said, we will not do that. But together, they eat of the tree, because Satan said this, do you really think God meant that when he said that? See, God's holding out on you. Because he knows if you eat of this tree, you're going to get something that he has. You're going to discover something that he knows about. So God's tricking you. And our pride rears up, and we say, I deserve that. So they eat. Which, by the way, as a side note, for those of you women, as you're shopping in Payless or in Cost You Less, if you're in the produce section and, in the fruit section and a snake happens to come by and says, I want to tell you something, the best thing to do is run, okay? Just as a side note. So Adam and Eve, they eat of the tree, the great rebellion, and they become twisted, broken, fallen. Immediately there's discontent, conflict, strife. And then they have some children, and Cain murders his brother Abel. Didn't take very long. And then we have that man becomes so wicked. Genesis. Man becomes so wicked that God is sorry for making mankind. He destroys, he wipes out everything except Noah and his family. And then many years later, as Noah and his family repopulate the earth, they rise up, they're all together speaking one language, staying in one place, even though God told them to scatter. And they build this tower as a name unto themselves. How great we are! We will be like God. God comes down and confuses his languages. Humans display pride, sexual immorality, hate, murder. The heart is evil. But back in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, God starts this great campaign. He's going somewhere. This seed verse, he says to Adam and Eve, he says this, and I will put enmity between you and the woman speaking to Lucifer, to Satan, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. A little thought. Adam and Eve have no idea what God is speaking about. But it's a little seed verse. God says, I'm starting a great campaign. I am going somewhere. It's the first redemptive picture we have. Then as we get to Genesis chapter 12, if you are following along, we just skipped a bunch of time. Genesis chapter 12, God shows up. He calls Abraham. Now, I wish I had a pointer. It's down here on the right-hand side of your map. It's over near where probably the Garden of Eden was. And he shows up and he calls this man named Abram, his father, and Abram. And he says, come follow me. Then later, as Abram makes this journey, lots of things happen. His father passes away. Then in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 3, the Lord said to Abraham this. He said, go from your country, your kindred, and your family's house to the land I will show you. And I will make you into a great nation. And I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. And him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth will be blessed. So God's campaign is this. Don't miss it. It is actually very, very simple. He tells Abraham two things. He says, this is what I'm going to do. He lets him know ahead of time. I'm going to make you into a great nation. And through you, I'm going to bless all the families of the earth. The Bible is not a bunch of bits and pieces. It's following a storyline. God is going somewhere. I'm going to make you into a great nation, and through you, I'm going to bless all the peoples of the earth. So Abraham, changes his name to Abraham, says, God, how do I know this? Because see, the evil one shows up and says, that's a bunch of junk. How can you do that? This man is 75 years old. And his wife is 65. 60. How in the world are you going to do that? If somebody has a baby over 50 years old here in the world, it's headline news, isn't it? But we're talking really, really old. I'm going to make you into a great nation, and through you I'm going to bless all the families of the earth. So Abraham says, how is this going to be done? How do I know you're telling me the truth? Because God is making a covenant with Abraham, saying, I will do this. 6 times he says it. I will. Well, in that time, if we were to make a covenant, not a contract, a covenant, we would do this, and this is what God tells Abram to do in Genesis chapter 15. Go out, get a bunch of small little animals, kill them, cut them in half, dig you a trench, put the animals on either side of the trench. The blood flows down into the trench. We will walk together, side by side. If Randy and I are making a covenant, we will walk side by side, holding each other's hands. We say we make a covenant together. If either of us break our side of the covenant, may we be like these dead animals. Broken, crushed, bloody, dead. So, here's Abram. And he's saying, what? God's thinking that I'm going to be the one that's going to do this? I'm 75 years old. He's asking me to make a covenant with him. What happens in the story? God puts Abraham to sleep. Abraham wakes up and he sees these lanterns walking down the trench. God says, I will do this. And if you mess up your part, may I become like this. May I be broken and bloody, dead, if you break your son. Make sense? That's the covenant God is making about this. I will make you into a great nation, and all the families of the earth will be blessed through you. Redemptive picture. Then God shows up and he does this. Abraham's 100 years old and Sarah is 90, and they have a son named Isaac. And again, to Isaac and to Jacob, Abram's grandson, they both get this. Isaac, I will multiply your offspring as the stars of the heaven, and will give your offspring all these lands. In your offspring, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. Then to Jacob he says, your offspring will be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south, and in you and your offspring all the families of the earth will be blessed. To the son, to the grandson, I will do this. So, I want to ask a question. This is going to require some feedback. It's okay to talk. What is needed for a nation? What do you got to have?
People.
People. Very good. What's the next one? This is sort of like that. What's that? Remember that old show? Where they flip the thing, the survey says. What's that show? Yes, Family Feud. So whoever said that one got that. Okay, so people. What's the next one? What? A leader. Okay, very good. James? A place, land. What? Unity. Very good. You hit actually on the fourth one, which is the hardest one. Culture, a way of life, unifies the people. See, you know what I'm talking about, because remember Chamorro culture? It affects everything, even how you set up a table. Okay, that is a way of life. That was developed, given, it's a thought pattern, this is how we live. Okay, so we got people, land, leadership, government, same thing, and then culture, a way of life. So when Jacob is old, Abraham has died, Isaac, he's old, his family only numbers 70 people. That's it. We are still in Genesis, and they're living in an area of modern-day Israel. And Satan, the adversary, who wants to destroy God's plan, he wants to destroy where God is going, he shows up, and he gets the tribes, there's conflicts, the tribes around this family, this 70, and they start to go to war with them. There's lots of battles. They're about to get wiped out by all the other larger tribes. There's a famine that's coming that they don't know about. It's going to kill them all. And if this group of 70 dies, then God is a failure, and he's a liar, and he cannot do his promise. So God has a plan. He shows up with a secret agent. His name is Joseph. And God uses this secret agent named Joseph. And you know the story. Through some family conflict, Joseph, who's the favorite in the family, ends up down in Egypt. And there he rises to the second most powerful leader in all of Egypt. He's just underneath Pharaoh. The family's coming. Tells Pharaoh, I need my family down here. God tells Jacob, it's okay to go. It's okay to go. Genesis 46. Then he said to Jacob, I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go to Egypt, for there I will make you into a great nation. I myself will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also bring you up again, and Joseph's hand shall close your eyes. And so for 400 years, they're in Egypt, and they become about 2.3 million people, because they got the best part of the land that they were given. But then a Pharaoh shows up 400 years later who says, I don't know who these people are. As a matter of fact, we've got to get rid of them, because they're right in our back door. What happens if they get a bunch of weapons and they decide to have a revolt? So he decides we need to wipe out the males. So he tells the ladies, when a male is born, throw him into the Nile. Kill him. Moses is saved. God raises him up through a burning bush, says, go.